I'm giving it at least 7 because 7's a lucky number. But hey, and welcome to Lunch with the Boys. We are live on the Good Rep Media channel today. And if you're new here, my name's Cody Anderson. This is Jordan Vogel, and we both work for Good Rep Media. Good Rep Media is a small business marketing agency. If you are a small business owner, if you know someone who owns a small business, ever thought of starting a small business, want to be able to give some advice to your kids who are starting their own small business, want to give some advice to your parents who have been running their small business incorrectly for years, we got a lot of different people who might be interested in this advice. As is, the advice today might be a little bit off topic because we're going to be talking about how Dungeons and Dragons can influence you in your day-to-day life, how your skills in role playing can translate into everything you do in your day-to-day. And I think that's a fascinating topic. We talk enough about Dungeons and Dragons, man. Jordan, I'm going to open this with, how many years have you been playing Dungeons and Dragons?
About 3.
3 years.
Not as long as you think. Yeah. Like you met me around the time that I was like just starting.
It's still crazy did I intro you to it, or was it?
No. Like right when I kind of started working and was coming into the office, I had a friend from like one of my other jobs when I was working at Bath Planet, who like was just getting me into it, and I was like literally creating like my character's backstory and stuff. And it was funny because it was like a week that like I was still new and there was a lot of kind of downtime in like what I was doing, so I was just kind of sitting there in the office like typing up my character background and everything. And I remember like I did the classic like new player making a character, and then I made like 5 pages of backstory for like a DM to try and work with. And it's like, well, that wasn't very, like, now that I'm like a forever DM, or like, I mean, I play with you guys, but like with everybody else I play with, I am the DM always. It's like, that is so obnoxious to do.
Which, why don't we actually start there? So for I want to set the stage here because we're going to get deep and there's going to be a lot of really technical Dungeons and Dragons talk as we get into it. So I want to set the stage. We are kind of providing advice for small business owners, for people who are interested in working in small businesses, side hustlers, people who are online, and generally if you're wanting to improve at interacting with others, which is all marketing is at the end of the day. This might help you out. With that said, Dungeons and Dragons, if you don't know, is a group role playing game. You basically get together and you all agree to tell a story with different characters, and one person leads the story. They're considered the dungeon master or the game master, whatever that might be. And so in Dungeons and Dragons, I think Jordan, you and I both play the dungeon master a lot. We
Yeah.
both really enjoy the role.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, but then like when you don't do something, like when you only get one side of it so much, you start like really longing for the other side of it. And so that's why I appreciate you, because I feel like in our group that we play with, you kind of definitely take it on the most.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I definitely feel like I do a fair amount too, but like, I mean, you're like leading us through an actual campaign, you like, whereas everything I'm doing is just kind of like hey, if you need a break, I'll run a one shot kind of
Yeah.
mentality.
Which, okay. So with that said, I want to get, like, if you had to describe what a dungeon master is and what the role of a dungeon master in the campaign is, how would you describe it?
So I love how you've always described D&D as collaborative storytelling,
Yeah.
but like it does still feel like the DM is like the main author behind it. Like he is the one who like decided, hey, the world's gonna be like this. This is everything that's going on. Like D&D is like a lived-in video game almost, where like you are actually inside it, and like so in that world you're inside, it's like the dungeon master is almost like God. And I don't want to
Yeah.
like inflate any egos or anything, but like I mean ultimately that's what it is. Like it's the dungeon master who decides what happens always.
Yeah. And to translate it a little bit into a different like medium, have you ever read the Goosebumps Choose Your Own Adventures?
I have not, but I'm
Oh,
familiar.
Mel, producer Mel, she's also joining us. I'm introing her earlier this time.
There you go.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here again. She does so much for us behind the scenes, so I do want to call that out. Have you ever read Goosebumps? The Choose Your Own Adventure ones, though, specifically. Oh, hell yes. Those are phenomenal. I actually love the Choose Your Own Adventures, but it's kind of like you're the author of a Choose Your Own Adventure. When you're the DM, you're setting up a story, you're giving them constraints. Because remember, constraints breed creativity. The more kind of rules and constraints that you place on people, the more creative they get to be within those constraints. So if you're saying, hey, we're going to do a campaign, you're in a haunted house, the DM is the person who's controlling the haunted house. Every door they open, the DM makes up what's behind that door. And I love being in that role because it's a very creative, fun driven role, as long as you're good at making things up, which is why I always harken back to the improv stuff, because being able to make things up is half of improv.
Yeah, I mean, and like you also got to think about it like it's a good position to be in if you're somebody who very much likes to be in control. You know,
Hey,
like
Edgar, by the way, not to
Hey,
interrupt you.
yeah, sorry, I don't even have the chat up over there yet. But like for anybody who likes to be in control, like you don't have to like abide to any other rules at all. Like the cool thing about it, like D&D, is like you make up the rules. I mean, there are a set of rules, but like you can tweak them in any way that you are comfortable with doing as the DM. And so like you have no like nothing like holding you back from like painting the picture you want to paint. And
Yeah.
so, like, if you're somebody who's like, I don't like kind of being told I can or can't do this, then the dungeon master role is like the perfect role for you.
I like that you brought up the pain analogy, because one of our clients said something really, really insightful recently. And I thought about it a couple of times since. So he was talking about Picasso and how Picasso has hundreds, thousands of unpublished paintings and works of art that he made that were just scribbles and things that he never thought were good enough. But he also knew how to paint. He knew all of the rules. So when he broke the rules and did his Picasso, he knew all the rules that he was breaking, and he
I,
broke them explicitly. And so I really love Dungeons and Dragons because it gives you the power as a DM where you have this rule set, but as you better understand that rule set and you work with your players to tell a really cool story, you work crazy shit in there. And it's very much like a, hey, let's collaboratively do this really cool thing.
I don't want to take a shot at you, but it sounds like you were describing Picasso as if like you were 3 weeks into an art history class.
Oh, hell yeah. Dude, I am. I don't know Picasso at all. I'm not an artist. I'm a
Yeah,
marketer.
I know
studied
you don't.
art.
That's why I said 3 weeks into it.
Hey, we're gonna rage bait so many art history people, and it's gonna be phenomenal. Yeah. So, have you ever heard that before? Because you were in that call, right?
Yeah, yeah, and
You studied art, haven't you? Or well, at least a little bit more.
I mean, like I studied design, which
Okay.
is
Okay.
definitely different. Like that was
Different.
like one of the first things in those classes they kind of tried to like make sure we understood the difference between. Um, like design is kind of art, but like art isn't necessarily design, if that makes sense. I don't know. I won't go into all the details of that because that's not really what the topic's on. But like, I mean, I have learned a little bit. But that being said, I was a horrible student at every stage of studenting. So like, don't ask me any history on anything that maybe I've learned at one point.
Yeah. Ooh. So I want to hit this one hard because I think it is one of the main reasons that I've gotten better at doing this, YouTube in general, in managing my team. It teaches you how to interact with people. You need to be able to lead a group. You need to be able to collaborative storytell. One of the jokes, one of the comedy things that goes out there all the time is the yes and. You need to yes and you 100% do need to yes and. It's a really good improv rule. And when you learn how to do that in a company setting, when you learn how to do that in a professional setting, you learn how to set up your employees for success, especially as a manager. You learn how to coach the people around you to be better, do things that they need to do for themselves. I can 100% draw a translation, a parallel between, hey, we're running this Vikings D&D campaign. I need to give my paladin character something to fight for, some type of conviction. So I'm going to give him a cool sword that's like, covered in demon's bane and it looks black and he needs to wash it with the tears of Odin. Cool fantasy storytelling. So it gives him a drive. Very similarly, when you give someone at work and you're just sitting here trying to make a website, it's really difficult to just, hey, care about the website. You got to give them a carrot. You need to be able to work on that with someone and actually get them to buy in.
Yeah.
Um, and that's maybe a very, very far parallel, but in my head, it's direct.
So my answer does overlap a bit with that, because I think a lot of the skills that you kind of talked about growing is kind of going along with what I feel. I think Mel, you asked about it in like a professional setting, how can it help you grow, but like I think in all the same ways that outside of professionalism, it just helps you be a better person, not a better person, but like gain skills that just make you kind of more efficient, and yeah, like I guess better person, not like morally or anything like that, but like
Well,
you gain a lot of skills like communication, being able to like talk about the things that you want to do at your table, articulating your thought processes and things like that. As a DM, one thing that I don't think gets touched on enough is the organization that is involved in being a dungeon master, especially if you are doing an entire campaign. I've had a campaign that ran 2 years, and so I had to keep like accurate record of like what everybody did every session. I had to like know like what level everybody was at, what they're doing, like what their goal is, kind of the mindset of everybody. There's a lot of details that goes into it, and so like you really have to work, and I'm not a very organized person, so doing that was a challenge for me, and I really had to work on and improve my ability to kind of keep that structured in a way that I could easily reference. Then on top of it, like Cody said, there's a lot of improv skills. I think improv, a lot of people hear improv, all they think is improv comedy. But I mean, half of our class when we're there isn't even necessarily about being funny. It's more about just being able to creatively think when you're put on the spot. And that's what you have to do in Dungeons and Dragons, because your turn's coming up. You better be prepared. And so I think that there's just a lot of very valuable life skills that you can obtain just from sitting around the table and playing a game with your friends.
yeah, and it's worth noting, like, you taking the time, energy, and effort to do those things, logistically, just getting down to the logistics, herding cats to get everyone in the same place at the same time, doing that in your 30s is very difficult. I don't know if you've tried to get a bunch of 30-year-olds in the same room on the same day
For like 4
consistently.
hours too. Like it's
Oh, it is
not
like a
like
long
like the
period of time.
sessions aren't just like, hey, let's go play D&D for an hour. Most of the time you're sitting there for like 4 hours, playing for
It
a
is
long period of
a
time.
day.
I have
And
managed my Discord sessions that I play virtually over the internet. I have managed to kind of squeeze those down into about 2-hour sessions. They're a little bit more manageable that way,
well,
because we can also do them a little bit more frequently. It's a little easier to get 4 people to gather online than it is to gather at a location.
yeah. Well, and when you gather at a location, one of the I say this is like a pro con because again, it's a con for the game, but a pro for human interaction. You're gathering in a location with a bunch of your friends to play a game for a couple of hours.
Yeah,
You're gonna get distracted and you're
and I
gonna hang
do
out.
and I do want to say I love playing in person more than I
Mhm.
do playing digitally. We have some people in our group that seem to be very adamantly against playing digitally, and I don't understand that mindset, because like digital tends to be the route you go when like you can't do it physically, when there's something stopping us all from meeting, and then like they would rather just do no D&D than digital D&D, and I
Would
don't
you
understand that.
would you compare it to work from home versus working in office almost?
But yeah, yeah. Like to the point, like I said, like when we were doing work from home mixed in like hybrid, we'd come in on like Thursdays, Fridays, or whatever, and work a little bit in office every week, but then the rest of the week was from home. It was like we wanted to do that. We needed that like break from sitting in front of our computer by ourselves all day to get to the office and have a little bit of interaction. And that's why like I'm in a mindset of like I can play 4 virtual sessions to every one that I go meet someone,
Yeah.
but I don't want to play 5 because I'll start draining out from playing all these virtual sessions.
Yeah, the virtual sessions take a little bit different tone. And I feel like there's also the ability, if you're going to do a virtual session, to keep people on point because you're not going to be distracted by the in-person
That is
games.
very true. Yeah, I was just thinking that as you were saying that. I do notice like that's also probably why I can do a concise 2-hour session versus in person where we play a 4-hour session, because we're not taking a lunch break. We're
Yeah.
not, we're not going to the garage to do garage things, you know, where
Yeah.
like we're sitting there and it's one concise session through and through.
Exactly. And I do like that term. But to get back to the general question here, which is if you've never played D&D before, if you're interested in playing D&D or if you're wanting to wonder why we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons in a professional setting, go check out a session, plan it, lead it. And if you want to be the DM, if you want to make up a world, go find a one shot. You can Google Dungeons and Dragons one shots and run the whole thing there. You can have ChatGPT run a session for you. You
I've
have
had
plenty of
ChatGPT
options.
make me multiple sessions. Like I did that. You weren't there for it, but I did a one shot with our group at Eric's
Mhm.
where I prepped for it that day. I just like I went to ChatGPT. I was like, give me a world, gave me the world. I was like, give me a couple enemies that they may find, gave me a couple enemies, and then from there I was like, I'm gonna create it as I go, and I'm just gonna try and splice these things together where I can. And then like if there was ever a point where I was like, oh, I don't have a few characters made, I would turn over to Chat GPT because when you're the dungeon master, you're sitting there behind a screen. Nobody sees like what you're working with. Nobody sees your notes or anything. And I can go to Chat GPT and just be like, give me 3 characters that fit this description, you know, and
Yeah.
it'll spit those out for me.
Yeah. Mhm.
I
I
learned I'm
wanna
more violent than I thought I was playing D&D. Like it's funny because like you're put in this world where you have like all these infinite options of ways to handle these tasks. You get creative, and yet I always find myself like, let's beat his ass and get that information, you know. And I'm like, that's not creative, and that's something I'm trying to work on. But like I did kind of have that revelation about myself. Like it allows you because like when you start seeing themes in character, because like the whole point is role playing. You're creating characters, you're stepping into characters, but they're all characters from your own creation. And when you start noticing little themes in each of the characters you make, you start to kind of notice like your own little habits or like mindset within yourself.
so, Jordan, on that note, I want to maybe out myself here, and then I want you to out yourself immediately afterwards. I love playing paladins because
Yeah.
the righteous warrior image is just so, oh my goodness, I love it. And I'm charisma based caster because I love talking. I love the idea of talking or using my, charisma to get information. I like the idea of intimidation and persuasion. Oh, it's my whole thing. And that 100% outs me. I
Yeah.
I'm that type of person to a T.
And I'm the same way. Paladin is my favorite aesthetic of all of the classes.
Mhm.
But that being said, like so when I first started playing D&D, I was very much like, oh, what class do I want to play? What like, and then from there I will decide like my character. And now I've become very like, what do I want my character to be like, and then what class fits that. Like
Yeah.
I've very much seen a big shift in me from going from like I'm gonna min max my character to make the coolest, strongest person I can
Mhm.
to like who's gonna be the most fun to play. You know, like you could make, you know, your variant human wizard who like is like max to the nines and can do everything perfectly and he's just like the little prodigy, but like it's so unrealistic. I'd rather, you know, make like an orc one that's like really stupid that like that doesn't make sense, so all of a sudden like he's not going to be efficient because to people who don't know, like stats and stuff go into
Yeah.
your character,
Getting
the races you choose and stuff like that play into it, and
which
so like
actually
there are combinations of things that work better. Yeah, go ahead.
races actually don't in the new
Yeah,
5e. You
I
can
don't love
use
that.
I'm kind of here for it because if I want to play a smart orc, I want to be here for it. But I do think in general, as I've mentioned, constraint breeds creativity. So when you operate within those constraints, when you're, hey, I want to play a swordsman who lost one of his dominant arm, you know, in war, and now he's retired and becoming an adventurer. So he fights left-handed, and it's a non-dominant hand, and blah 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 blah. And so his whole goal is he wants to find a replacement for his hand and he's fastened like a blade on it or something. Like that's sick. Do something cool.
Yeah,
Be weird.
yeah, and something you notice is in a lot of newer players, they kind of struggle with that like min max mentality, you know,
Yeah.
minimize your weaknesses, maximize your strengths. And like they don't leave a lot of room for faults in their character, and that's hard because like D&D, like some people, I think there's an early mentality that you can win D&D, and that's not what it is. You can't win a book. You can't win a story.
No.
You know, and that's all you're doing is telling a story with your friends. And so like if you have a story where the main people just succeed at every step of the way, that gets boring. You know, you need failure in there. And so that's when it becomes fun to like, you know, build like a wizard that's like an orc that like when he can't cast spells, he goes and hits you with his club instead, things like that, you know, like
I cast bash, man.
yeah, exactly.
So I want to get to the idea in general. We talked about DMs and like creating worlds and stuff like that. When you're a player and you're creating characters, you are working as part of a team, and you need to understand there is a difference when you first start and you're min-maxing your character and you're like, I want to make the best wizard possible and it's going to be super cool and I'm going to be super powerful. Usually new players come into it with that mindset where I'm going to be super powerful. This is going to be great. I'm going to have so much fun. And I think Jordan recognized it and called it out really well. Over time, that mindset shifts to how can I make a character that shows off my team really well? I don't want to be the center of attention. I want to have a role. I want my party to be a group. I want my friends to be whatever. Let me be brothers with one of these guys. Let's have a backstory and let's do this thing.
And I'm just now realizing that parallel to the lessons we're learning in improv right now, where it's like a lot of what we're doing is more setting like improv is less like let me find my opportunity to be funny and more let me build someone else's opportunity to be funny with the thought that they will do the same for me later, you know.
Exactly.
And so I think that does play a lot into like what we're saying with D&D, where it's like, no, I just want to be the character who is going to complement the rest of the cast, is going to be able to have some fun moments on his own, but like ultimately benefits from being in a group of other people. And I think that, you know, when Mel, going back to your question as to like how that kind of can like how we see that in real life, I think that like I see that in a little bit of like Cody's management skills, where it's like he will definitely take a step back sometimes to let other people kind of show like what they are working on or like what they've accomplished or what they do, and like really highlight that, unless like he doesn't like take credit for everything Good Rep's doing. You know, Good Rep's doing really well for us and everything, but like he's not out here like, look at what I did for Good Rep. It's look at what the team did for Good Rep, you know. And so I do think that you do. What's that? Oh yeah, we don't do all those calls with Joe. That's just you and him, red dots over here. You're just over here taking all the credit.
I'm doing so no Jesus. I don't think I could, man. Honestly, that's not my vibe. And it really is. The collaborative storytelling and being able to set up the people around you is really big. And so I want to draw a parallel to a work situation that I feel like most anyone who's listening to this has experienced. The concept of a Mary Sue. Mel, have you ever heard the concept of a Mary Sue before? Anyone in chat, Mary Sue?
In literature specifically.
What's that?
In literature specifically. So Mary Sue, and Cody, correct me if I have any inaccuracies here.
I was going to say, I think
essentially a character who always has a solution for everything. It's the character who, like, there's a problem, I'm going to solve it every time I'm on screen or on the page. And it really takes away a lot of impact from books and stories, because like basically, like I said, where it's like if you have a D&D party that every time they're just so strong, they handle everything that they come across, they never struggle, all of a sudden where is the interest in the book? Where is the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the,
where's the tension?
But the tension, thank you. You won't have it because it's just every time that it comes up. But I do think that that's a great way to also, in storytelling, subvert expectations and build someone up as a Mary Sue to then make them fail. I think that makes for a very good like story arc. And so sometimes I do think it's cool to like because in D&D you can work with your DM, like, you know, in between sessions you can go up to them and be like, hey, I'm hoping my character kind of has like a fall from grace arc or something like that. Specifically with paladins are a great example, our favorite class, because like they have these oaths and you can make it so like they can break their oath and then their whole class changes because they're now oath breakers. And it's like, so you can make a character who's like shows up, beats everything, is just like this like shining light of like he can do no wrong. And then like after a session or two, something happens and now he's fallen and things are bad and he's not as good as he once was and things like that. And I think that makes for a much better story than like just coming in weak, you know?
I do want to bring this back to the whole idea of Mary Sue's in general, because what I wanted to compare this to is in the workplace. A Mary Sue is that person who comes in, they're randomly hired, they're a brand new hire, and they come in with this energy of, I know everything. They're hired as management, they know every answer, they don't ask questions, they just tell you what to do. It's the people who come in and they are the main character. A lot of people say main character energy. I feel like there's two connotations to that. When you're in a company or business setting, like if you walk into your day job and you come in with main character energy, that's not going to work out really well unless you are working by yourself or in a situation where you don't rely on others. If you're
Yeah.
relying on a team, you need to come in with a team player mentality.
Now, I do want to say, like, when talking about Mary Sue in the real world, I don't think it exists because I don't think there is anybody who will ever solve every problem ever with no, with like, because that's writing. The only way a Mary Sue exists is an author making it exist.
Well, it's yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
It's Mary Sue doesn't exist as like an actual thing. It's more of
Yeah.
a concept, and people
But like,
consider
but I
themselves
think
a
that
Mary
people
Sue.
can definitely have that vibe or like
Mhm.
believe themselves to be a Mary Sue in the real world. And
Yeah.
I think that that is just ignorant confidence, is
Well,
all
exactly, and
that
that's
ever is.
that's what I want to get at is when a person is creating when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons and that new player creates their first character and it's the Sorlock that does 18d8 damage in the first turn, blah blah blah, whatever, and they're like, "Oh, this is so cool! This is so much fun." They don't understand yet that that's not great for storytelling, and they also don't recognize that that doesn't answer every question in a D&D campaign. They're Mary suing it. They're like, "Oh, I'm the main character. I can do all this damage." And then they're like, "Hey, so we're playing political intrigue. You're gonna go talk to the king, and he's gonna have you investigate this, whatever." And it's like, "Well, I can't Eldritch Blast an investigation, friend."
But
It's like, "Hey, you
but
didn't set
but
yourself
that
up."
also then very much come like I think that that weighs a lot on the DM as well because it is on the DM to like when when the player is making their character to be like, hey, I don't think that this is going to fit into the world. Also, a DM should know to not bring a new player probably into like a political intrigue, corporate
Well,
espionage,
maybe not, but it's
like like that's
hey,
probably
man.
not the session to start someone on. Like I feel like a good one.
You kill
So
goblins.
Yeah. So a lot of the times, like, so Dungeons and Dragons has like this like system for like calculating like the difficulty of like enemies you fight and stuff like that. So when you're entering in at level one, like your DM should know that. Again, like for a new player, a lot of the weight isn't actually on you. It's on the dungeon master to accommodate the fact that you are new. Like the dungeon master shouldn't throw you up against a Tarrasque in your or in your first session. I know you don't know what that means. Anybody who knows Dungeons and Dragons knows what that means. Yeah, and like you shouldn't go up against a dragon on your very first one. I get that it's called Dungeons and Dragons. You don't fight a lot of dragons. Like they're really strong. But like Cody said, you fight goblins. You go on a little task to go collect berries. Like you it's very much like a video game. Which again, Mal, I don't know if you're a big video game person. I know you told me and Cody yesterday you like them, but like I don't know if you've ever played like an MMO or anything like that, where you start out doing very mundane tasks. Yeah, where you're just doing very mundane tasks at the beginning. You're not out there saving the world at level one. But your dungeon master is going to be the one who essentially tells you what it is you are going to do, and hopefully he puts it in a way that like is simple. As a new player, ultimately, I recommend personally, like if I'm DMing and I have a new player coming in, simple melee classes tend to be like the easier thing to start someone with, just because it teaches you the basics of like how do I hit something, and how do I look at my stats to know like how I roll my dice and stuff. And then you can start getting into the more complicated like spellcasters that like have a whole list of spells that they can do that all do different things. Like
See,
the
I would go even simpler and say, hey, if you're going to get started, find a group, Find someone who's going to DM for you and see if they have experience. If they're not, then you're going to have to DM and put together a group. So you need to figure out logistically how you're going to play first. I would get in there, figure out what you need to read. Hey, how am I going to create a character? What type of characters do I find interesting if I'm creating a character? If I'm going to DM, find yourself a one shot online that you can run and look up some rules. So like those are where I'm at. That first campaign though, that you're the first session for most people, I would 100%. I think it always goes to goblins. You're going to find your group, figure out your role, and then make sure that you're comfortable meeting up.
You say goblins, but like I mean, I've also had people fight like cultists, like base level
Cultists are good
a
too.
big one.
Bandits.
Bandits.
I love those. I love those early like session like monsters and whatever. The main thing to recognize, I think, when you're starting out with D&D is a lot of people go into it and they see like the Dungeons and Dragons movie. Did you see that?
I did see that. Yeah,
it was pretty good, right?
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
I would recommend. It wasn't like the most amazing.
You're not going to walk away from it knowing how to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, no, but you might enjoy like the overall vibe, and it was kind of.
But I do think like ultimately, if you don't know Dungeons and Dragons, it will just be like an okay movie. Like the real appeal of it for me was like being like, that's an owl bear. I know what that is. Oh, he casts talk with dead. That's why he can only ask it 5 questions. You know, things like that are like, oh, I recognize that from my time playing is what made that like from like a just okay movie to what I consider to be a good movie.
I guess that's fair. For me, I think the concept of Dungeons and Dragons and the concept of even doing improv is a lot of yes and. So when people talk about yes and this concept, it's very much hey, so I know that your mom just died, but you're setting up a scene. I told you that your mom died, but your mom's not dead. Doesn't matter. Yes, your mom's dead now in this scene. Yeah, I know she died last year. Sad that yours just died too. Now you just gave them something and they're going to yes and. Yeah, their mom's dead too. Now you have something in common. You're yes anding each other. That's a skill that
crazy.
You're getting.
They both died at the circus. And
exactly.
Like, you know, yeah.
I love that type of situation where you're able to play off of each other. And so being able to build up that type of skill is also very valuable.
Yeah. I have said multiple times that I think Joe needs to approve Good Rep to get together and spend one day just doing a Dungeons and Dragons session as a team building exercise. You know, we'll take 6 hours, dedicate that to the Dungeons and Dragons, and then we'll do 2 hours of just making sure no work is crazy behind.
See, and I would never be opposed. We can always do digital sessions and stuff like that, but I do think like if you, how do I put this? Team building exercises have existed forever. You see teams that are like going and doing axe throwing. You see teams that are going out and they grab a meal, they do activities together, they do an escape room. I think it's relatively common to get together and do these types of activities. I think that if you want to get together and do a Dungeons and Dragons campaign with people from work, it might be a great opportunity to kind of build relationships. There's also, I want to like also note that D&D is it's a spectrum. So you can play a D&D campaign with a bunch of people from work and have fun, but you can play D&D with all of your best friends and like go through your trauma because your character I want to use an example here. One of the characters, one of the people that we play with was part of the military and has some, PTSD and trauma related to that. And so one of his characters, I will say, a lot of his characters happen to have a military background. And so they're dealing with similar PTSD and trauma. And so it's one of the ways that he almost therapizes, or I don't know if that's a right word here, but deals with some of his trauma. And I respect the hell out of that. We can enter those spaces and he feels comfortable with our group of guys to kind of explore that, talk about it, maybe not talk about his experience, but talk about his character's experience. And so by proxy, it's giving him the opportunity to go through this. And I don't want to get too deep into that. Maybe I'm sharing a little too much there, but I think it's a really good opportunity for people to get deep if they want to. So Maybe not that with all of your work people all the
But
time,
I mean, also, like, you
but
don't
there's the
have to
other end
do
of the
that.
spectrum.
Like,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. You
like,
don't got to do that.
yeah.
You
And
also don't
like,
got to murder hobo. That's one of the
like
things that
I
happens,
I
Jordan, you
will
mentioned.
say D&D can be a little tricky because one bad person at your table can really throw off the whole vibe of the table in the game. So like we have an example where like someone showed up and they were just very drunk for like the entire time. And obviously
Yeah.
you don't just like get sober in 4 hours, but like they got drunk, they got drunker as it went, you know, and like they were new, and so like it would be one thing like if you like I don't mind if someone wants to drink at the table or like you know like smoke or do anything like that, but if like it is inhibiting you from being able to like learn how to play the game properly, and like now all of a sudden you aren't showing any signs of being able to like go with the rest of the group, and like you don't understand what's going on, that slows down everything for everybody. And also I don't want to say like it doesn't just come from like drugs and alcohol. Like sometimes people are just a little awkward at the table, and you do try and like accommodate that, but
Oh,
like
dude,
it,
phones, man.
phones are a big one. Like you
Oh,
know we I think we do a pretty good job of like not
we
like
do good
I
with
mean
phones.
like sometimes we'll like you know someone might take it out if they like have to send a text or something, but for the most part nobody's like sitting there on their phone.
Mhm.
um
But I
like
do know
I
that is something that happens with D&D groups quite often.
Yeah.
It's the all of the same issues that would come up if you're sitting around a table in a meeting trying to go over a pitch deck, or you're talking to your marketing team about optimizing your Google business profile, and they keep getting distracted by their phones, or
Mhm.
they're sitting there like eating loudly and not listening to you, and then every time you ask them a question they're not paying any attention. Like
So
those things are bothersome.
in my 2-year campaign, um like I had like two people in it who like hadn't even thought about playing D&D, had never done it, and I just went to them like, hey, I'm trying to run a campaign, you guys are our friends, we're getting other friends in here, would you guys want to do it with us? And they were like, yeah, sure, we guess. And so they didn't have quite the same level of buy-in that like
Mhm.
you'd want from your players as a DM. And so like there I could definitely tell there were times where like it was all virtual, and there was like times where like I knew one of them was like playing a video game while we were playing, and I was like, that's mad disrespectful, and like would legitimately upset me. Like to the point where I was like, I'm trying to like do this for you guys, but also on that same note, I was like, what grounds do I have to be upset? Like you guys just came here to do this kind of for me anyways, you know? But like on that same note, it's just like this is like it messes up the experience not just for me, but then for the other people at the table who clearly can tell that you are not paying attention when your turn comes around. I mean, I will say from experience, if you have ADD, it is tough. It is a tough game to like get used to at first. There will be a lot of times where the DM may like have like a long-winded description of the room you're in, and then you'll very quickly be like, I didn't pick up any of that. I don't even know like where are the people at? What's going on? Like as a DM, Cody, like how often do you feel like you repeat things that you say?
Oh god, you're repeating things a lot, and it's more so we're recognizing that you're getting a whole bunch of people into a room and you're going to be talking about the same things repeatedly. I know that if you've ever worked in an office setting, if you've had calls with marketing people on Teams or Skype or you know hell any of those programs, you know that people get distracted. They'll be looking at something else and they'll miss something that you say and they're, oh, what'd you say? Oh, you cut out. What was that? It is the exact same thing in Dungeons and Dragons, and it's a skill to not get frustrated. It's a skill to also actively listen.
Mm-hmm.
I think we get into it in improv quite a bit now. He's mentioned it a few times. Actively listening and not just waiting for your turn to speak, where you're trying to think too far ahead. You
Yeah.
need to be in the moment. You need to be listening to what's going on. D&D has that where you're listening to the DM speak instead of like, oh, what are we going to do as soon as the DM stops talking? We're in town. I want to go buy a health potion, blah, blah, blah. No, wait for him to finish speaking because you're going to miss descriptions. But when you're in combat, you also need to plan ahead and recognize, hey, these are my character's actions. And that's where preparation really comes in. Just like if you're going to do a presentation or if you're going to come into a meeting and you're going to talk to someone, preparation helps.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, hell, man, do you how much do you prepare as a player versus a DM?
As a player, I don't prepare at all. Like at all. I will like recap if we have a written recap of the last session. I will read through that and try and remember as much as I can from the last session. But like, yeah, no, I don't. I like I know enough. Like at the beginning, maybe I did a little bit more, like when I was a new player, because I would be like, okay, I want to make sure I'm utilizing my character as best I can. Now I definitely am someone who like makes a little bit of mistakes in my like in the rules of how like my abilities work. Like I may be like, oh, I cast this on that person, and then you guys will go, that's a main action, you can't do that. I'm like, oh shit, but like I now know that I can do that still, which is something I didn't used to be able to do, and so like I don't have to prepare as much because I know how my character works, at least for the most part. And anything I don't know, I know how to navigate my character sheet and figure out how it works.
It's experience. I
As
do
a
want to.
DM, as a DM, I will pretty much any day I'm like I I used to be very like I will prep like a couple hours for a few days ahead of time. Now I'm very much to the day of. I'm gonna just sit down and prep it out, but I will still probably spend like 3.5 to 4 hours of prepping it.
Yeah. The prepping as a DM is very much like a, hey, I'm a project manager. Let me get all of this stuff together so I can say, here's your actionable step. Here's your actionable step. Here's your actionable step. You're going to report this. I need this information. You're going to build this, that, and you're doing all of that. You're prepping up for, okay, we're going to have a paladin. I need to make sure that this has something for the paladin that's interesting. I need to make sure that the druid has something. We're going to combine their stories and we're going to have this throughput. You're coming up with a way for these characters to all come together and enjoy this campaign.
Yeah.
I do want to pause real quick. I'm getting messages that people can't hear Mel when she talks. Is that anyone in chat can confirm if they can hear Mel or not when she talks? Mel, if you can give us a 1, 2, 3.
I actually don't. Last week or yesterday, I saw the blue ring around her when she would talk. Mel talk again. I do not see the blue ring up there now.
Ooh, I wonder.
Interesting.
I see our blue rings. I wonder if she's just not able to go live or if she's not.
I'm also wondering if it's only like certain things that like maybe like Facebook she can't be heard, YouTube I don't think it would do that actually. Now that I'm saying it out loud.
Yeah, that would be weird. James, if you're in chat, can you let us know if you're hearing Mel talk at all? Yeah, well, we can hear you
But like,
just
yeah,
fine.
we hear you, so that's where it's like really weird.
I wonder if we might have to Google that.
Yeah, we shouldn't. I don't think we should pause the show completely.
Yeah, no.
But well, I was just having something. I wanted to ask you, Cody.
Yeah.
Like as someone who DMs regularly, I'd say you probably DM more than you play.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Do you still get nervous?
I think it's one of those, when you do something often or when you've done something often enough, it becomes comfortable, at least for me. That first step is always the most difficult, and I want everyone to acknowledge that the first step kind of sucks. The first DM session that I ever did, I don't think it went very well. I walked away from it like, oh gosh, I kind of hated that. But there were one or two things that I liked and did well and that I did enjoy. And as I DM'd more, got the group together more, there were more and more things that I enjoyed in each session. And so I kind of figured out, okay, hey, this is what I like to do. This is kind of a style that I want to go. And I still do too much. I make too many big story decisions. Like there are still issues, but I think I've nailed like one shots. Like I've got one shots down quite well. And at this point, if someone came to me and was like, hey, let's do a one shot, I could be like, bet, give me 45 minutes and I could write a one shot from scratch and we could play it.
Yeah.
Like that would be pretty simple, but that's more of an experience thing because
Yeah.
I've played a lot of D&D.
So like your heart ain't giving it like a little race on the drive to Eric's.
Oh, well, that's more so like excitement because
Yeah.
I really get,
like I said on the pod yesterday, excitement and anxiety are the same feeling. You just think of them different when they're happening.
I mean, I guess that's fair. Maybe I am a little anxious, but I'm always a lot more,
hype.
Yeah. Like, I'm always thinking of really cool things, and I'm excited for like one particular aspect. There was one drive where I was thinking of the gifts or presents or something that you guys were gonna get
Yeah,
in
I
the
think I know
Viking
the exact
campaign.
question you're talking about. Yeah,
The Bomber Scraps Big Bomber or Big
yeah.
Scrap Book of Bombs.
Hmm.
I came up with that name and I just spent the whole time thinking of bomb recipes that I could put in Bomber Scrap's Big
You knew
Scrap
how
Book of
excited
Bombs.
Eric would be for that.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. I felt it was just fun and it was cool to think about. And
Yeah.
that's personally for me something I do a lot of. And I'm curious, do you do that? Do you spend a lot of time like in your head thinking of concepts
Yeah,
and
but
being
I
like, "Oh, I
also
really like
try
this."
not to because, like, on that same note, I mean, something like, oh, he's gonna get this item is one thing, but
Mhm.
sometimes I feel like I almost script moments and then like
Uh,
force them to happen. And I think that that strips a little bit of agency away from the players, you know, because like I almost forcibly push people to moments. And so I try to not do that as much. I will say, going back to my question to you,
yeah, yeah.
answering for myself, being an anxiety ridden person, I still get super anxious all the way up until the moment we start.
As it when you're DMing?
Yes.
What like
Super
so
anxious.
like is
It's
it
because it
anxiety that
feels like
something's
all
gonna
the
go
pressure is
wrong?
on you to make sure everybody has a good time.
Oh, like you're the like almost like you're orchestrating the fun. Like
Yeah,
you're the event orchestrator.
exactly. Yeah, like if I don't deliver, like your players are always gonna deliver because playing's easy.
Mhm.
DMing is definitely a challenge, and so like depending on how you do is really going to dictate how much fun they have in their experience. Now, I have over time begun to learn that you get three or four people together as players, they're going to have fun no matter what. You could be like, hey, you guys find yourself in a concrete walled room, figure it out, and then you could probably let them play for 2 hours trying to figure out how to get out of that room, and they will have a great time. You know, like you don't have to go extravagant, but like if we're taking the time to do it, I want it to be a memorable experience. I want to cater something that is going to be an experience that they will remember and talk about and then try to replicate for like other people or even again when they're playing in a different time. And so it just feels like a huge weight on your shoulders to like deliver that. And again, I'm a high anxiety person.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I get anxiety very often about very mundane things. Um I
Personally,
w-
I wanna say like when you're coming up with those stories and you're coming up with the one shots and stuff like that, you're you're able to be a lot more creative and kind of freeform than the players. And so it is very much I keep drawing the parallel back to like manager and employee, where if you're like the DM, you're managing everything. You're kind of okay, here's what it is. And if you're the employee, you're like, I came with my character sheet prepared. I know how to play this character and I'm going to play them to my best of my abilities. There are better players, there are worse players, but if you come in and you're prepared and you know how D&D works, you're going to do great. And you can get better over time, just like any other skill. And I really like that parallel, I think.
yeah. Yeah. I do want to finish my thought by
Yeah,
saying
sorry.
I do lose that anxiety about 5 minutes into starting. Once the
Yeah.
ball is rolling, it is something that like it's gone. I can take it from here and we can have a good time. Now I will say like I've been running a campaign from like a book recently. I've
Mhm.
been doing the Descent into Avernus one for my friends, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I feel like I get way more anxious because like there's a lot of all right, hold on, let me like read here and see what it says. And I would rather just be able to make something up on the spot. So I think I've hit a point in it. I just text everybody and I was like, guys, I think I'm just gonna toss the book. Like I think I'm gonna like look at like what the major points it wants me to hit throughout the entire rest of the campaign are, and then I'm just gonna make up things to get you there. Because like I do feel like I keep hitting these spots where it's like, oh, hold on 1 second, and then like I like read what's in the room, and I'm like, this is just an empty room. Like I don't get why they even put this in the book, you know? And like I don't know, it just kind of like is lackluster, and then also like takes me out of it a little bit. Like it kind of kills my own ability to be creative.
Yeah, well, and I feel like that's if you're doing things like from a book campaign. I will say It sounds almost like those book campaigns. In my head, I'm like, oh, SOPs. So those are just how you play a regular game. You're going to go buy this Descent into Avernus. It's going to tell you how your characters are going to start from level 1 to 5, I think, or is it 5 to 15?
I think it's 1 to 8,
1 to 8,
one
one
or
to
one to
eight.
9 or something like that.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, here's your campaign. You can read it. It has every single session planned out, every single like major arc. And I'm here for stuff like that. I do agree. If you're going to get a book, you're going to want to read it and get like the good stuff down.
And
And then
that's
you're going
my
to want to
problem.
skip out all the dumb stuff
And
that you don't
obviously that
need.
is a big part of my problem, because like I've said it many a times, like I read the book, I do read the book and prepare by reading it, but it's like my brain just doesn't like it's textbook to me, so like I just struggle with the comprehension of it. And then so like
Yeah.
then I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna improv a bit of it and then use the book for reference when I need to. And then that causes that whole issue of me being like, oh, hold on, wait a second, and then going and looking at it. And yeah, I don't know. I just think like the second half of the session I did on Saturday, I just said screw it, like because like I was noticing they were checking all these rooms, and when I'd read it to them, I was like, "There's nothing in this room for them to even look at." I started being like, "All right," I put that to the side, and then I started describing the rooms they were going into on my own, and I put a monster in there, and I set up like a cool scenario that like one of the NPCs with them was like ready to like sacrifice himself by pushing this demon off the edge, and like they
You
were all
created
very
your
like,
own
no,
scenario for
don't
added
do it. And I
tension.
was like, well, that wasn't something that was ever supposed to happen in the book, you know. But like I was like, I love that. I think that like because there's a character that they've had since like the third session, I want to say, you know, has been there with them, and I was like, oh, cool, this is going to be an emotional jumping off point if he literally jumps off the edge with this demon and pulls him down underneath. Like, and
Which, I mean, hey, if it works for the players, it works.
exactly.
The main
And you
thing
know me,
is,
like my style tends to be a little bit darker than yours does. I think you and I are almost very like contrasted. Like you kind of are like, let's do whimsical, like you know, like animals, fae, stuff like that. I'm like dark demons, like zombies,
I
like
mean, I am doing
torture.
Vikings Undead as my campaign,
That's
right?
true. That's true. But like,
All my one shots are fun because one
yeah.
shots are fun and whimsical in my
But
head.
like even like the zombie Vikings one we're doing doesn't feel as dark as like my Ravenswood like demon one did, you know, where it's like right off the rip we're watching demons come out and tear apart a city and stuff like that. You know, like yeah, we like lost our whole ship, but we just kind of like went under seas, and then like all of a sudden like we wash up on shore and like a lot of them are gone, stuff like that. Nothing felt like is again, like I said, I find that
I was gonna say you lost like half of your Vikings were washed up dead on shore. You had to bury them all along the coast.
didn't see it
But I
happen.
guess we didn't like focus on that as like a set
Yeah,
piece.
yeah,
So maybe
like
that's something that like improvement generally because I could have set that
well,
and that could have
no,
been
I
much
don't think that
darker.
that's improvement. I think that that's just a different vibe that you bring. You
Hmm.
don't need to detail like how intense, like because I think you want our people to be more overall positive. You know, like
Yeah,
you
well,
want us to
and
be
generally that is how I approach things. I
yes. Whereas like,
100%.
and I'm not trying to make my people negative, but I'm trying to put them in more of like a grim, dark, like when I built my first campaign, I tried to do it with like The Witcher 3 in mind. You know, where it's like this is not a fun place to live. You know, like it may be a fun place to play in. It's fun to be Geralt in this world, but like if you were a commoner in this world, it would fucking suck. You know, and like
Well, I mean, if you were a commoner in Bridgerton, that would suck too. And let's be real, if you're a commoner in most of the movies that we ever see, like you see those like freaking Hallmark movies, and you're like, oh yeah, bet you're millionaire. I saw a meme. Sorry, I'm gonna diatribe on this for a second. Those Hallmark movies. So she's been with this guy for like 5 years. She's settling a $10 million sales deal that's gonna put them away for life. He's gonna make $1 million commission on this. So he needs to go close it on Christmas Day. So yeah, why don't you go to your hometown, get stuck in a blizzard, and get with the local lumberjack? Like, I don't get it, man. Just because he wears flannel and the other dude wears a suit in the city, I don't know. But then
so yeah,
again,
your
Christmas is a
vibe is
big
a little
deal.
more
There are always bigger
hallmarky.
problems. What was that?
I said, so yeah, your DM style is a little more hallmarky.
I enjoy having a story that's like headed towards redemption. I did complain about, actually, another side diatribe here. I went and saw Wuthering Heights this weekend, and it was good, but it was tragic, and I don't really enjoy tragedy.
Yeah.
I like they are good. It can be good, but I don't know. I'm just not the biggest fan,
Yeah.
and I feel like you are a much bigger fan of tragedy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like that being said, I'm also like super empathetic on in like movies. Like
Mhm.
I really struggle if like somebody I feel like who didn't deserve to like be in pain or be hurt in any way gets hurt in a movie. Like I genuinely feel so bad. Like horrible. It's really hard for me to watch. But like in D&D it's a little different. You know, like in D&D it's yeah, like it's a little bit more different, like kind of being into it. um Cody, speaking of like watching things,
Mhm.
do you have like any like let's play that you actively watch or anything like that for D&D, like Critical Role or anything like that?
Oh, so that's actually a really good question because I want to do a good call out here. It's been a hot second since I've watched. I don't necessarily know where they're at, but I've listened to the podcast Greetings Adventurers. They used to be Drunks and Dragons. They're like the longest running Let's Play podcast to exist. They were going for like 8 years or something like that. I listened to 600 episodes, I think, all of like the same campaign, the same sessions. It was phenomenal work. Um, but yeah, that's the only D&D like type podcast or like
Yeah.
let's play or anything that I've watched. I have done some Critical Role, but I know you've done a lot more of those because you've looked at what's the Dimension 20?
Yeah. So the majority of Let's Play that I've watched has been Dimension 20.
Yeah.
That being said, favorite my favorite campaign that I've ever seen, it was more like a mini campaign. It was like 4 sessions, 4 episodes, was the Critical Role Calamity, which is
Oh,
done by the person who does most of the Dimension 20 stuff. Like
Brennan Lee
he was like
Mulligan.
a guest DM for the Critical Role one. But like that I think also maybe set a lot of the vibe that I tried to build, like that I tried to build in mind, because again, that was another one of those like shit's kind of hitting the fan. Like there's like, it's a tough, dark, like people are gonna get hurt. Like, it's not just like fun, like we're in the Fey world, we're playing with fairies and stuff. It's like, no, like shit is going bad, like the world is ending. And so that's hands down my favorite. But there are a lot of other really fun ones. I appreciate how Dimension 20 kind of takes like
Mhm.
the fantasy setting and twists it a little bit in a lot of their things, because they don't want to just be like, oh, okay, knights and dragons and demons or any of the basic stuff. They're like, okay, what would it be like if Game of Thrones took place in Candyland? And then like all of a sudden now like the knights have like these like gumdrop swords and stuff like that, and like the people from Candyland are at war with the people from like Beefonia or whatever, like it's like the land of the meat and stuff like that.
It's the setting up of different worlds and different systems that are interesting.
Yeah.
So like I try to parallel this to business. Uh, there are industry disruptors. They talk about it in Knives Out 3. Go check out the disruptors. It's hilarious. But
I thought it
Amazon
was two.
is disruptors too. It
Yeah,
might be
like
two.
in the Onion, right?
Yeah. Oh, it is in
Yeah.
the Onion. The
Yeah.
disruptors are number 2. Yeah, yeah. So go check out Knives Out 2. Great movie. But
Fantastic movie.
absolutely,
Fantastic
go check
movie.
out all of them. They're great. Honestly, they like get better. Number one's
I disagree. Third one was the worst one.
third one was I think third one was like
Third
the
one was the worst one.
best.
No.
I loved it. As some
I didn't like the supporting cast in it nearly as much as either of the other two.
Oh, dude, as someone who like has a church background, that thing
I
hit.
do get that. I get like that's why you like it, but I don't know, like like the twists and stuff didn't seem as intense as they did in the other ones. Like I don't know. I don't know. I didn't like it as much personally.
That's fair. Did you see? I thought two was kind of weak because I really liked one because it was really focused on just this house, and I loved that. And so two was really big because they had this island and they were all around. And I understand it was like focused on Glass Onion, whatever. Phenomenal. Three, I really liked that it was smaller again because it
Yeah,
focused on this
on the
church
church.
town. It was like
Yeah.
a really like tight tight
No,
story.
and I do get that. I don't know. I just felt like the overall story of it was a
Was a
little
bit
bit
weaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I just feel like Blanc wasn't as good in it, if I'm being honest.
No.
Yeah. Like he's like my favorite part of the other two, and I just feel like he just I don't think like again, I think that the problem with it roots in that the supporting cast wasn't as good in my opinion.
Mm.
And so like it was harder for him to bounce off. And he wasn't in it for like the first hour.
Yeah. Him not being in it was a little bit weird and wonky, but I still really enjoyed that. I think I like the third one
I should
almost
give
as
it
much as
I
I like the
listen,
first one.
I'm gonna give it a rewatch and then come back to you with a second opinion on it. You know, knowing like not look like because Knives Out are such great ones for rewatches. Once you
They
know
are.
the truth about like once you know the twist, and like that's to be said about any good mystery show or movie. Once you know the twist, going back and watching it, like
Is it still good?
Attack on Titan, go back and watch Attack on Titan from the beginning. It's going to be a whole different show, and it's almost better the second time. Um, you know, those little things that have these massive twists. Uh, I do want to go back through and rewatch it. I think I'll have a better appreciation for it, and I'll let you know what I think.
Oh, you made it all the way through my sneezes. I appreciate that. I almost didn't think you were gonna make it. I was like, "Ooh, ah." The issue is, I have 2 cats and I am slightly allergic, and that,
Mm.
slowly but surely is going to kill me, I'm sure. But, with that said, we're hitting time here. We 100% could talk about D&D for hours and hours and hours, I am sure. I do want to apologize if you were not able to hear Mel. We're still figuring this out. Tech issues. It's
Yeah,
gonna
it's crazy
happen.
that we could hear last time, but not this time.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go back and maybe check out the videos. We'll see what's happening, but thanks so much, guys, for joining us on this episode of Lunch with the Boys, where we're talking about some D&D and how they can kind of relate to your life. Do check it out. Do go play some Dungeons and Dragons. I would highly recommend it to most professionals because it's going to teach you how to work with teams. It's going to teach you how to interact with other people in your day-to-day
There's
life.
a lot of subliminal real life skills that you will pick up and not even realize it.
Boom. Snap. And that's all from us, guys. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you on next week's episode. Joey Matterhorn will be live at noon, and Good Rep will be live noon on Tuesday.
Loki came to say bye.
Loki did come to say bye.